Coach, tough loss at Eastern Michigan last week, but then come back with a hard-fought, kind of balanced effort against Bowling Green to get that win on Saturday. Recap last week for us.
Well, I think when you go back to the Eastern Michigan loss, you know, early in the game, I think there were some adjustments that our guys were making, against their zone, is mainly to get adjusted to the zone. I always tell people, unless you've seen it in person, it's hard really to duplicate it in practice. And so I think that was part of the process filling out. But at the end of the day, Raven Lee was just, he was unbelievable. He had 46 points, and I would tell you, I think he made 9 threes, and probably 7 of those threes were probably from at least 24 feet, and he got in the zone, and he pretty much single-handedly carried them and made guarded shots, and we just couldn't overcome his performance. Now, that's not to say that they don't have other good players, but it was a special night for him from an individual standpoint. And I don't think we ever really got into a groove, obviously against the zone, and we had Ali Barnes starting, and obviously we had a walk-on who goes on the road and starts at Eastern Michigan against that zone, so he got his taste of it right away. But it was a tough game for us. We just couldn't, like I said before, couldn't get in a rhythm, but yet and still I thought we competed, but we just weren't good enough. We couldn't overcome Raven Lee at the end of the day. And then, of course, moving forward to the Bowling Green game, I think it was a game where two teams offensively, it wasn't the prettiest sight. I can tell you that, certainly. But really proud of our guys because, between Eric and G, I think they were 5 of 26, something of that nature from the field. And, as we've gone this year, if you were to tell me that both of those young men were going to shoot that from the field, there's a good chance it's going to be a struggle for us. But, we had some guys step up. I thought Willie Moore played probably his best game. I think he had 13 and 8 and was really effective, and he did it in 18 minutes. But, he was really effective for us on the defensive end in the zone, really, played the zone well for us. But multiple guys that, stepped up. You go back and you just look. I thought Logan McClain came in and gave us production. Ollie Barnes hit one shot, but it was a timely shot. It was, when we needed something to happen. Then, of course, Chris Bryant, who was on the boards and playing. I think he had 9 points, about 7 or 8 rebounds, something of that nature. May have had 10, but Chris was really productive and engaged in that game. And I thought in some ways he carried over from the previous game at Eastern Michigan. He was probably the lone bright spot overall from the Eastern Michigan game. And so nice to see those guys be productive when Eric and G weren't at their best offensively. And hopefully that is something that we can carry on and carry into the next performance against Western.
Talking about carrying that over, for various reasons, we've had to rely on different guys a lot, whether it's Ollie Barnes starting or,
Right.
Willie coming in and playing, Dion Wade stepping up. Using a lot of those different guys, how do you feel that's going to help you maybe towards the end of the season as we're in the second half of the MAC?
Well, I think one of the things you always try to do as a coach is you're trying to build depth, and but you're not trying to do it the way we've done it, where you're having to survive some injuries. But it's put some people in some interesting positions because they've had to come in and they have had to try and be productive, and so I think it's probably made them even more aggressive, which is a good thing. And so you look back, we're without Eric, and then of course Dion ends up with a concussion in the Eastern Michigan game. So right when you think you're going to have everyone back, you come to the Bowling Green game, and Dion's out. And so I'm happy for the kids that have come in and stepped up, certainly happy for Ollie Barnes. And so I think now as you go down the stretch, I don't think you're putting guys in who are shocked per se and not comfortable in the situation, because we've had some kids that have had to really come forward and really help the group out. And in some ways, they have found their own way, which, if you look at Eric's situation, Eric's been out, Eric, in many ways, has come back to a different kind of team. And so Eric is now having to make the adjustments to the group, which I think is a good thing. And so hopefully it'll bode well for us as we go forward from here on.
You mentioned Chris Bryant and his numbers last week, but really, 4 or 5 games where he's put up some solid numbers. Talk about his improvement and his impact in these last 4 or 5 games.
Well, I think one of the things we talked to Chris about is having consistent energy, playing with a motor, and then still, and I think it's an area that, obviously there's a lot of improvement is, and this is for all of our post guys, is getting the ball around the basket and being able to finish, and whether that's score or get a foul. But, I think, when you look at Chris is a kid that also does a solid job of taking charges on the defensive end, which I think are always game-saving plays, and rebounding the ball. And I think, if you go back to the Eastern Michigan game, particularly in the second half, I think he found out when we get it inside, if he'll play to the rim and not away from the rim, then he's got an opportunity to have some success. And so if we could get that and a consistent production, I think that makes us a different team. And so it's certainly always a work in progress, but he's made steps and really gone in the right direction as far as rebounding the basketball, being active on the glass, and getting us multiple possessions.
Looking ahead to this week, 2 road games, still looking for that first road win in the season. Head to Western Michigan for a 7 o'clock game Tuesday, and then see Toledo for the second time around, 7 o'clock on Saturday. Preview the week ahead for us.
Well, isn't it such an easy week? We're back on the road for 2 more games. Going to Western Michigan, who I happened to see Western Michigan play against Northern Illinois a couple weeks ago, and I can't remember if they hadn't won yet, and they may have been their first win. I don't remember. But the one thing that I came away from with that game was, man, I thought they were a pretty good team. Their energy they were playing, and it was very evident as you watched them that they were playing with a singular focus and that they were playing together. And you would not have thought that was a team that had either no wins or 1 win. And so as I look at them, they're a team that is has tried to overcome Connor Tava, who was one of the best players in the league. And now they've had some guys that have stepped up and taken on different roles. I think if you look at Tucker Heyman and you look at what he's done, he's taking on that physical presence role, leadership, getting the tough baskets and doing those things for them, playing in the contact. And then, of course, the young man Wilder as a sophomore last year. I remember we watched him on tape and we thought he had a chance to be really, really good. And it was just a matter of him, biding his time and getting better. And now he leads the league in scoring, I think, right at 22 points a game. And so that lets you know, and he can play the game in various ways. So we've got our hands full. They've got size inside. They have kids that know how to play. They're a very good passing team, and they're very consistent in their offense. And so we've got to really, really do a good job of defending, and we've got to be able to rebound the ball, and we've got to be able to also get good shots. If you take a look at Toledo, obviously when they were here it was a shooting display. I think the other night they had 16 threes the other night. So I don't feel so bad that it didn't just happen against us. But Nathan Booth, what can you say about him? He's certainly, if he's not Player of the Year in the league, he's certainly one of those young men that's a candidate to be Player of the Year. And they shoot the ball so well from various spots. And John and those guys, he's able to shoot it, drive it. Jalen Sanford, those kids can all really shoot the basketball. So we've got to go up, and we've got to be able to defend the three-point line. What makes that really hard is because of Booth, because he can play inside, he can play outside, he can play in the mid-range. And so it's certainly going to take a collective effort. I haven't really looked at them much, obviously, I know from the first game, but, to try to see if there's something that we can do better. But when they were here, I didn't think they were going to ever even hit the rim. They were so good offensively.
Thank you, Coach, and good luck this week.
Thanks, Ange. Appreciate it.